Yeah, an injury, quick injury report. Frankie Montes dealing with a lat strain. It's a high-grade lat strain. So he's shut down from throwing 6 to 8 weeks. He's on his way to New York right now to get a PRP injection. So that's what we got.
When did that pop up? What happened?
Yeah, after he threw his first sigh, came in the next day and complained about tricep soreness. Trainers check him out, and then they decided that we needed to take an image, and there was a lot of inflammation there, and then we had multiple doctors take a look at it over the weekend, and that's what they came up with. Is a high grade and PRP for now is.
Does this force you to reevaluate a 6-man rotation?
Not really. I mean, we got options. We got depth. Still too early. Here we are dealing with a injury with one of the starters, and we'll continue to have those conversations and see whether, especially at the front end when we have 3 days off, whether we want to go week 5, even though because they're going to be getting that extra day, and then we'll adjust accordingly.
Carlos, you guys they talked about the depth that David and you guys built in the rotation heading into camp. Now you're down one of your bigger guys. How confident are you in the depth that you guys have in the room moving forward without Montas for quite some time?
Pretty confident. There's a reason why they're here, and we've been talking about the whole off season. We know that in order for us to get to 162 plus, we're gonna need 8 to 10 guys. And here we are. It's nothing new for us. Guys will step up. Guys will get opportunities, but we feel good. We feel good with the options that we got. So,
without putting like a specific timetable on it, is it fair to assume after a 6 to 8 week shutdown that he would need a spring training amount of time to build himself up?
Yes, because he's going 6 to 8 with not throwing, and then complete ramp up is pretty much he's got to go through like a whole spring training progression. So, yeah.
Could you reconsider Buto as a starting option, or you're not at that point where you?
No, we're not at that point. No, hopefully we're not having that conversation. But no, that's not on the table right now.
Well, you've got some guys. Obviously, where is Blackburn? Is he somebody you can envision being ready to start the season on time?
Yeah, we're building him up to be a starter, so we'll see where we are at the end of camp, but our goal is for him to be, it all depends, as of right now, knock on wood, everything is progressing in the right direction, so our goal is to have him, just like the other guys, maybe 70, 75, but he's going to get built up here.
And having a guy like McGill, who's been so valuable the last few years, how comforting is it to know that you have him?
Yeah, and that's when we got the news from Frankie. Those are some of the names. You mentioned Blackburn, McGill, so there are really good options there. So, and McGill came in ready to go, just like the other guys. So, yeah, he's in the mix, but we still got ways to go.
Is everybody here, this being the first full squad workout?
Joey Meneses is the only one missing. He has some visa issues. He should be here tomorrow. And what I've been told is he's on a tourist visa. He's waiting to get the work permit. So if we'll see him here tomorrow, he's allowed to work out and all that, but not allowed to play in games until he gets that work permit. So hopefully that resolves, shortly right after. But everyone else is here.
And has anybody else popped up as suddenly behind the others? Besides Montes?
No. Not that I could think.
Hi, Carlos. Who do you consider as part of your that next wave of depth after McGill, Blackburn? Is it Sproat, Hamill, those guys, or are there other people as well?
Yeah, you're looking at Hangeman, Waddell, some of those guys that came in looking to compete for a rotation spot. So yeah, not only those guys. I think there's a case, Spro and Hamill. Those guys need some development still. So there's some NRIs in here that, hopefully everyone stays healthy, obviously. But like I said, we like our options. We'll see.
Obviously, when you get to spring training, you kind of storyboard a lot of the innings for the pitchers. With Frankie down and now looking to replace that starter, does that bump up a guy like Kranick? And how do you weigh the other positions, also trying to determine for those spare parts? How do you storyboard getting them enough at-bats, enough innings and games?
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of the puzzle here. We're trying to piece it together. How do we get at-bats? How do we get everyone ready to go? And same thing from the pitching side of things. You mentioned Kranick. He's going to be built up for a multiple inning guy out of the bullpen, just like the other guys. We're probably going to get to a point where the innings are going to be limited here in camp, and we're going to have to get creative. But our job is to get everyone ready to go. So whether it's at-bats, innings, just making sure that everyone is feeling good physically and, like I said, the proper workload. So.
Hey, Carlos. Kevin Marr from News 12 in New York. Second year for you. How different is this spring training, considering you don't exactly have the getting to know each other aspect of this camp?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, coming into camp, knowing the people, knowing the personnel, just knowing the whole organization, It doesn't feel like I'm meeting 20 people every day. So that's been the biggest difference, Already have a relationship with players and a lot of the guys in here. So it makes things a little bit easier. But as far as everything else, is pretty much the same.
Francisco also said your opening speech was
Which Francisco?
indoor.
Okay.
5 stars. He said your speech was 5 stars. He wouldn't tell us exactly
That's
what
good
he
to
said.
know.
Can you give us a little hint of what the message was?
Yeah, it was who we are, what's our goal. We're here to win a championship, and we got to believe that. But we also understand that we got work to do. We still got long ways to go. There's a lot of good teams out there. We got to be able to become a great team, and some of the things that we need to do not only on the field but off the field. So it was a messaging somewhere along those lines. Just a reminder who we are, and that last year was last year. It's all about 2025 now. So yeah, I'm glad he liked it.
Hey, Carlos. Curious what you thought of Holmes today. How do you think his stuff is working now that it's being stretched out over kind of a larger workload?
We like what we're seeing. Last live VP, the changeup was really good. Today was good too, but I like the cutter today. He threw some good ones there. He threw one to Nemo, so we know the sinker and the slider, right? But watching him just continue to tinker, continue to have those conversations, and he's not only pitch, the development of the pitch, but it's when to use it, how to use it, and who he's going to use it against. So whether it's a lefty or righty. And today, the fact that he threw a right-on-right changeup, people will think that maybe it's a pitch for just trying to get lefties out. He used it against Pete today. It was pretty nasty. I thought it was a slider from the dugout. I asked him, it was a changeup. So the profile was really, really good. And then he threw a cutter to Nemo that got in his. He got on his hands pretty good. So that's part of the transition. But so far, knock on wood, I like what we're seeing.
What was it like seeing Pete Alonso back out there after so much questions over the offseason?
Yeah, it was good to see him walking this morning, full uni. He walked by the office. I told him, man, that uni looks good on you. He came in the office excited, because it wasn't easy, but we didn't know which way it was going to go. So I'm glad he made that decision. He's back with us, and how important he is for this lineup, and for this team. He's a guy that knows what it takes to play in New York. He's a homegrown. He's one of the best power hitters in the game, and just adds to what it already was a pretty good lineup. So, yeah.
When it comes to these depth starters that you guys are talking about, McGill, Canning, Blackburn, how much does having options versus a guy who doesn't have options factor into these decisions?
Yeah, some of these guys are on major league deals, but that plays into it in some of those cases. Whether we're talking about a bullpen guy, our starter, and we already had those conversations with pretty much everyone in camp. That a lot of times there's things that they're out of their control, and the one thing that they got to do is just be themselves, control the things that they need to control, and let us make those decisions. They're uncomfortable conversations at the end of camp. Hopefully that's the case, that we're having these uncomfortable conversations and difficult decisions. But they know, sometimes it works against those guys, but have that option.
Carlos, with the 6-man rotation, the Dodgers talking about doing it. You guys, not
Who's
many,
talking about doing it?
the Dodgers, perhaps.
Okay.
Not many teams decide to do that. If you guys do stick with it, how difficult is it to manage a pitching staff with a 6-man rotation?
Yeah, I think I think the bullpen situation, is what becomes tricky because you're one man down back there. There's a reason why there's a lot of guys out there that have options. So we're gonna have to use those guys pretty much, and we're gonna have to get creative. And like I said, we already have those conversations with a lot of those guys. So yeah, we'll see where we at, but we'll adjust accordingly.
How can you get creative? In what ways?
Well, I mean, if there's a need, guys, it's probably not gonna be their fault that we're gonna be sending people down. It's just out of necessity, and then depending on off days, you go with 6, you keep 5. Depending on the schedule and how things plays out, you're in the middle of a 13-game stretch, then it's easier to go with 6. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into when we're making these decisions.